back. Hey, this is Redneckanize Radio. Remember, it's every Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Call it 516-387-1733. Be sure to go over and check out our website, redneckanize.com. You'll find the links to all our social media plus YouTube. If you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, we really appreciate that. And talking about all things trucking and then some. And always having a good time doing that. So, one of the cool things that I like discussing, because, you're in the business, so you're always going to say, what do I know, what do I don't know? And one of the things that truck drivers always kind of confuse other people on is you hear everybody saying there's a driver shortage, that the trucking industry can't deal with the lack of truck drivers. They need more truck drivers, and there is a driver shortage. Well, so there was an article in, what is this called? I forgot. It's something like commercial, I can't remember this website, ccjdigital.com. And I remember seeing this before, and I forgot what it stood for, but it's run by Randall Riley, and it's like a commercial carrier journal or something like that. But anyway, it says here that, where'd it go? There it is. It says, for the fifth year in a row, the driver shortage has topped the American Transportation Research Institute's annual Top Industry Issue Report, a survey of more than 2,500 carriers, commercial drivers, and other industry stakeholders. Unlike 2019 and 2020, where margins between the driver shortage and the number 2 industry issue were much closer, and the driver shortage earned just 28% and 26% of the total share of votes, respectively, the driver shortage totaled 47% of the total share of votes in the 2021 survey. Contributors to this driver shortage are endless, said Rebecca Brewster, ATRI, President and COO, during the educational session Sunday at the American Trucking Association annual management conference and exhibition in Nashville. Growing freight demand, the shift to e-commerce that leads to more local jobs that is hurting the over-the-road driver recruiting, and aging workforce that we are not backfilling with younger individuals that we need to account for those driver retirements. Says Brewster added, the pandemic also has created a backlog in driver supply from training schools and state licensing agencies that were temporarily shut down. So, and when you look at the survey, so what it is there's a survey. They ask carriers and they ask truck drivers. Well, yeah, the top 2 is driver shortage and driver retention for trucking carriers. But the top 2 for truck drivers was driver compensation and truck parking were tied, and then detention, delay at customer facilities was number 2. So, again, we're giving you the answer to the reason why there's a driver shortage. If there is one, and what are the things that can be fixed? Well, compensation and detention and delay time at facilities. You take care of those issues. You do a better job at taking care of those issues, and right then and there, I bet you're going to see an increase in driver supply, if that really is a concern of yours. Now, what I'll argue with you, and I've done it in several of the videos, is that there may be a shortage of drivers that people can hire. So what I'll tell you is, you go to any carrier, and when they ask you this, there's a driver shortage. Okay, you go to that carrier. The carrier that answered that, that's their number one concern is driver shortage. You go to that carrier and you ask them, are there people just not applying for the job? Or do you have applicants, or do you don't have applicants? And they're like, no, we got plenty of applicants. There's plenty of CDL holders. There's plenty of drivers looking for a job. They're just not qualified to work for us. That's what they'll tell you. And that's the problem, is that they have a requirement, and it might not be just them. It's their insurance companies. It's just certain things they gotta abide by. Maybe a customer requirement, But above all, it's just requirements that they've created that says we got to have drivers that do this, or we have got to have drivers that have this kind of record. And what they're not going to hire is they're not going to hire people that, of course, can't. You got to pass a physical, so that's another big thing. And sometimes, depending on the facilities that you use to get the physicals done, the doctors that work at those physicals, they're the ones that decide whether or not that person passed a physical. You could have a truck driver pass a physical at one facility and then go to a different facility somewhere else and fail a physical, because of the way the test is administered, the way the doctors see things, or the nurse practitioner, or whoever's getting the physical. They do things differently. They do that different. They don't. There's a minimum requirement, and some of them go above that and say no, they got to be. That's not right. My uncle, he passed away because he was in his 80s, still truck driving, and one of the doctors he went to get a physical told him his heart was not strong enough to pass the physical to be able to drive truck. Well, he was out of work for a little bit, and he went to a different doctor, and that doctor said, your heart's fine. So what changed? Obviously, the other doctor was, kind of holding a higher standard. Was the other doctor holding a lower standard that maybe we should concern ourselves with? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he was just going by the minimum standard, and most of them do that. So most of them just go minimum, But that's a requirement. You got to pass a physical. Well, anybody out there truck driving these days, go out there and you see truck drivers getting out of these trucks. You think some of them pass some physicals? You think some of them are needing to concern themselves with passing the next physical? Are they getting a physical for 2 years? Are they getting a physical for 1 year? 6 months? There's 3-month physicals being handed out there. They pass a physical every 3 months. They have to. They're not healthy enough to pass a physical. Now, some of them, they're doing everything they can. They've got issues and they're trying to do better. Some carriers will not take anything less than a 2-year physical. Some carriers will not take anything less than a 1-year physical. So if a doctor will not give the driver a physical for a year or more, then that carrier says we're not going to take that. And that's just their requirement. And there's nothing in the rules that says they have to take. They just choose not to. Sometimes insurance, whether it be their workers' comp insurance or just their driving insurance, there's a minimum requirement that you have to pass physical at a certain level, and all that. And then when it comes down to insurance, you got insurance requirements on driving. Some of them say no accidents in 5 years. Some of them say no accidents in 10 years. Some of them say no tickets in 5 or 10 years. And let's just face it, that's getting harder and harder to find, especially when the facilities pass out tickets like candy because they're just trying to raise money. So, you got to look at those things. And it's not, it may be somewhat the driver's fault, maybe somewhat not the driver's fault. You never know. The other people out there that don't know, truck drivers are held to a different standard when it comes to getting traffic citations. If you get let's say a truck driver's out in their personal vehicle and they go 10 miles over the speed limit and they get a ticket. And normally, what do you do? If you're not a truck driver, if you don't have a CDL out there, what do? You get online and you go to, you can click on these things and you can get the probation to where you pay the fine. And as long as you don't have another ticket within 6 or a year or whatever, then the conviction goes away. Or you can take the traffic school, and sometimes you can even do it online, and then you pay for that, and then the ticket gets dismissed. None of those options are available to truck drivers. Not at all. Truck drivers either pay the fine or fight the ticket. Now, once they start fighting the ticket, there are other avenues they can take as long as they get approval from the judge or whoever's in charge of that. But that takes time and it costs more money because, that's, and it may be one of two things. It's because, they don't want truck drivers to get off so easy because they should be held to a higher standard anyway, or they're just looking to milk more money out of them. It's 6 one way, half dozen the other, if you ask me. But, we get in these circumstances all the time. I was actually traveling in my personal vehicle in another state and got pulled over for doing like 10 or 12 miles over the speed limit. The speed limit was like 60 and all that good stuff. And then of course my concern was like, well, why didn't you pull the car over that passed me? So anyway, the worst part about it is most of the police officers that give you the tickets, they don't know that there's a difference in the CDL thing. They just like, no, you can take care of it. It's no big deal. It's not going to affect you. They give you warnings. Oh, it's not going to affect you. No, it does. CDL, it's different. And most people don't know that, especially people that don't have a CDL. And most of the police departments, the officers that hand out tickets, they don't know that. They don't know that there's a different standard when it comes to dealing with tickets, especially in a personal vehicle. Because they think, that only concerns if you're driving a truck. No, it's everything. If a truck driver, a CDL holder, gets a ticket for going 15 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, that is classified as reckless driving. And if they get 2 of those tickets within 3 years, then their CDL gets suspended. And that's according to the federal government. So, not saying that it shouldn't happen. Yeah, it should happen. It shouldn't happen. People shouldn't get tickets like that. I know people that have gone most of their whole life without getting tickets. But I always say that the people that get tickets are the same people that you're trying to hire for, 30, 35 cents a mile. Those people get tickets. It's one of those. It's like a requirement. It's kind of like if you, it's just that happens to people like that all the time. They get those tickets and they have a CDL and they don't, and of course, truck drivers, hey, we get a little hot-headed. We might say the wrong thing, or we might lose the ticket and have to go do certain things and all that. But, that's where things are happening. The funny question you get asked when a truck driver goes to pay a ticket, the question they get asked is the CDL active? What do you mean by that? And it's like, well, are you currently working as a truck driver? And go, oh yeah. So my wonderment is that how many CDL holders are out there that don't drive truck but have a CDL, and they don't. It doesn't concern them, this kind of stuff, because they don't drive big truck. So the state or city or whoever doesn't really think of that as a big deal, because it's not a big deal to them about getting a ticket or whatever. But that's, the trucking companies are not going to hire drivers that have tickets on their record, especially recent, even though it's in a personal vehicle. Doesn't matter. Accidents, doesn't matter. Personal vehicle, big truck, doesn't matter. It all goes in the same system. And if they look it up and see, yeah, well, you never had an accident driving a big truck, but you had two driving your personal vehicle, we can't hire you for that. And that happens. So when they say driver shortage, it's not lack of applicants. It's applicants they can hire. And that's just stuff that we could probably do something about. We could eliminate those problems. But the other stuff, the reason why there's a driver shortage, it's all about drivers. So it's one of those things where you want to be able to buy, a really nice car for a really low price. But the guy selling the car is going to sell you a really nice car at a really high price. That's what he wants to do. So how much money are you willing to pay for that really nice car? But the deal is that, but you don't know how much willing they're going to come down to sell you that car. So, there's a battle there you don't know. The driver shortage or driver compensation, which is the top issue for truck drivers, that's two of the same. You got good truck drivers that demand good pay. And these carriers, they don't want to pay that. So they're like, well, we need good truck drivers. Well, then you're going to have to pay for it. You cannot demand, you cannot put out there, oh, we can't hire these guys, they're not good enough. We need good drivers. And then you're only paying them, 35, 40 cents a mile. You're not going to get good truck drivers to apply. If you say that there's not enough, so you got to pay more, which means you got to charge more. That's a whole nother can of worms, right? But that's what it boils down to, is there are good drivers out there. They're getting paid good money because they go out and look. They're always looking for the better job. And that's just like the number one concern, driver compensation. Okay? They want to get paid. And if there is a driver shortage, that means those drivers should be getting paid. But if the driver pay has not gone up significantly more, then it's not whether or not there's a driver shortage. There's a good driver shortage, which means that they want to pay low wage for a good quality driver, and you can't do that. Some of them they even want to pay they want to pay a good wage, and they'll hire the guy. Hey, come work for me. I'll pay you this much. Oh, that's a good job. That's a good deal. Let's do that. And then the driver just flakes out, or can't live up to what they're required to do. Can't show up. Can't get the customer on time. It takes them 2 days to go 700 miles. Or 600 miles. It takes them 2 days instead of just the one or a little bit, whatever. I mean, I've worked inside the office where I've known drivers that couldn't even run 300 miles in a day. They couldn't do it, or they just flat out just, there was always something going on. There was always something wrong with the truck, something wrong with the freight. And it caused so much delays that not only would they lose money, but the company would lose money. And then, what you do is you have to write them up for it and stuff and all that. And yeah, it's those kind of drivers is what the companies don't want. But these bigger companies, they have no choice but to keep those drivers. And then guess what? That company gets a bad rap for hiring crappy drivers. But again, carriers are concerned about driver shortage because of the retirement drivers and that kind of stuff. I don't think that that big of a deal. I think that there is just a higher demand for the higher quality driver. You just got to understand, if you want to get some work done at a lower price, you're not going to be able to hire the top tier. All right, you're not going to be able to get Derrick Henry, the best running back in the NFL. You're not going to be able to get him for $5 million a year. When everybody else is willing to pay him 25 or 30. You're not going to be able to get Tom Brady to play for your football team. Paying him $4 or $5 million a year. You're not going to be able to do that. It's not going to happen. If you want good people, you got to pay them. And as you see, I mean, that right there, to me, that number one driver concern, compensation. Number one carrier concern, driver shortage and driver retention. To me, that just sums it up right there. They want good drivers, but they don't want to pay them, or they can't pay them. These guys, they want to get paid for doing a good job. And there you go. So that's what we talked about out here, and that's how we get things done and all that good stuff. So we're just rocking right along. Don't want to do that yet. But anyway, so we're just going to keep on going here, taking your calls, 516-387-1733. Don't forget to check out our website, redneckanize.com. You can go over there and find our links to our YouTube channel. Really appreciate everybody subscribing to that. That's been a great deal for us. If you don't know, Redneckanize, we're a small little outfit of truck drivers where we try to provide education and common sense solutions to the trucking industry's problems, or to just drivers out there on the road trying to make money. And what we started out doing is going to the truck shows, to the Mid-America Trucking Show. And we started back in 2012, and that's where we met. That's where we got together. And we decided that, we were going to try to provide some kind of nice little deal for drivers to hang out and just be able to communicate and, I don't know, just relax. And it was one of those things where we could all set up at this little tent that we got, bring your chair. It might be too cold, so we'll fire up the heat. The sun's going down. We got some lights. Got a little hungry. Fire the grill up, cook some food. Hey, what's going on here? We got, guy brings out his guitar, starts playing. Next thing you know, we got mics and we got sound and we got, a stage and all that. And there's been other organizations that set that stuff up and everything at the parking lot. And it just kind of, what it does is that sometimes they get there and what happened was they just got really big. And then next thing you know, you get so big that your sponsorships kind of fizzle out. And then next thing you know, you're not around anymore. So we're trying to keep that kind of as is. Like, we don't want to be as big as that, but we'd like to be enough to where people will still come enjoy and hang out and have a good time. But that's what we do is we're going to be at the Mid-America Trucking Show up here in March 2022. The show got canceled in 2020 at the last minute. That's when they shut everything down. And then, of course, because of everything not fully opening back up yet, they shut down 2021 too. So it'd be 2 years without the show. And so supposedly there's another show going on in next week in Searcy, Arkansas. So if you're able to check that out, there's a Facebook page. It's called American Truckers Jubilee. And you go research it. There's a Facebook group page on there where you can get all the information on that. There's supposed to be some good musical acts going to show up there, and it's supposed to be a pretty good time. So if you can get by there, check it out. Like I said, check them out on their Facebook page. But here we're just trucking right along with our radio show, and you can call in, talk about the industry, talk about the news, what's going on, and then of course we got the YouTube channel. We're just getting ready for the Mid-America Trucking Show, and that's kind of our staple. That's kind of what we're known for. So we're really excited about that. And also check out our website where we've got a store where you can get T-shirts and some hats and some other items. We're working on getting more decals and all that kind of stuff. Because of the truck shows gotten canceled, our inventory is kind of depleted, so we're trying to get that stock back up. But other than that, everything is going really great. I wanted to thank one of our other sponsors, and that's DPF Regeneration. They've been with us for a really long time, and you can guys check them out at dpfregeneration.com. They got everything where you can get all of those exhaust filter problems solved. They got the EGR coolers, they got the catalyst mufflers, they got the particulate filters, the SCR units, all that good stuff. And you get the parts and the knowledge, and kind of where to go to get that done. You can even send them your DPF filter. You can send them to them, and they'll clean it in their extremely clean and thorough manner facilities that they got, and then they'll overnight it back to you, and that's a pretty good deal. So you can check them out, dpfregeneration.com, or give them a call at 800-634-3010. And like I said, when you talk to them, tell them you appreciate them supporting Redneckanize, because we really do appreciate those guys. So like I said, we're going to keep on rocking and rolling here. Hope everybody's having a good night out there tonight. And like I said, 516-387-1733, Redneckanize Radio.
Has opened up my eyes, and I don't want to leave your side for that lonesome road. But here need a chrome and steel and a load they need in Chicago. Through the middle of the night